Well, I had just found out that the girls were coming back to the East Coast for their final nationals, and I thought, my impression was that it was like the last season of the entire show, and I think it was supposed to be.
I believe it was.
And that was very just... That was a moment for me because that was my whole childhood, and I left so abruptly and never had proper closure that I felt like, wow, if I don't get proper closure now, if I don't get a final goodbye now, then when am I ever going to have that moment? So I talked to my mom and I was like, I think I want to go back. And
I could have fallen over in the kitchen. I was like, what? And she's like, I think I want to go back. And I'm like...
Well, just for one episode. That was it.
That was the plan.
Yeah. And then we went back, and then another season showed up, and I was like, well, I guess we're going back for another season.
Talk about kind of leading up to that, right? You're making this decision. There's so many different unknown things, like, you know, who the new people are going to be. Yeah, who's going to be there, who's not going to be there, what's waiting for you when you walk in. How do you juggle all of those unknowns with this huge decision?
Well, the clip that you saw when we actually walked in the door for the very first time on that finale, oh, hello. What you didn't see was Chloe standing outside the door for about 5 minutes. Like, she kept putting her hand on the door, and she's like, I don't think I can do it. And I was like physically getting sick. Yeah. She's like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can do this. And I'm like, you know what? We're here. Open the door.
Well, in my defense, I wasn't sure if my teacher, Abby, was going to be on the other side of that door, and I didn't know if I could handle that moment, to be quite honest. So I was like, I don't know if I can enter this environment again. And then I went in, and she wasn't there, and it was just like wonderful happiness. So it was good.
Well, that's one of those things, right, that you don't know, and that is a huge factor when you're making that call going in. You're rolling the dice on a very important part of the puzzle. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I imagine there were a lot of discussions had prior to that moment.
Yeah, there was a lot of discussions, but it was more about, us and our journey and our story. I don't think that our story was quite over when we left, because it was just somebody else made the decision for us to leave, meaning that it was such an unbearable circumstance that I no longer felt it was a good place for Chloe. Mm. But I felt like our story needed to be finished. And I think in a way, it was the best thing I ever did. The best thing I ever did was leaving the show when I did, because it was important for her. And as a mom, I needed to leave. But the best thing I ever did was going back, because we got a lot of closure. And now when I look back on Dance Moms, and I think that you can say the same, I'm going to look back and really love what happens. Because I think you guys are going to love what you're going to see coming up this season. Because if I was like an Academy Award winning writer, I couldn't have written the way things all come to fruition. And I think everybody who, especially people who've watched the show since the beginning, you guys are going to love to see what happens to these girls, because I did.